Medical disclaimer. This content is for educational and informational purposes only. It's not intended as medical advice or as a substitute for professional medical consultation, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your eye doctor or qualified healthcare provider before making any changes to your diet, medication, or treatment plan. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay seeking it because of something you have read or heard. Individual results may vary. The experiences shared are personal testimonies and should not be considered typical results. Let me tell you about the morning I stood in my kitchen at 67 years old, unable to read the coffee can label. The words were just blurry shadows. I reached for my reading glasses, but even with them, everything looked like I was seeing through frosted glass. That was my breaking point. My name is Robert Chen, and 3 months ago, my eye doctor told me I needed cataract removal, both eyes. She scheduled me for 6 weeks out and told me to avoid driving at night. I couldn't read books anymore. I couldn't see my grandchildren's faces clearly. My world was turning into a fog, but I am standing here today to tell you that I never had that surgery. And my vision is clearer than it has been in 5 years. What happened in those 3 weeks changed everything. I thought I knew about cataracts. And it started with a conversation I never expected to have. I was sitting in a diner 2 weeks after my diagnosis, struggling to read the menu, when a senior citizen at the next table noticed my difficulty. He was probably in his mid-70s, and he leaned over and said something that caught me completely off guard. He said, "Cataracts?" I nodded, embarrassed. He smiled and said, "Mine were worse than yours. 3 years ago, I could barely see my own hand in front of my face. Now look." He pulled out his phone and showed me text messages. Small font, no glasses. I asked him what surgery he had. He said, "No surgery. I changed what I ate for breakfast." 3 weeks later, my doctor couldn't believe the improvement. Now, I'm a skeptical person by nature. I spent 40 years as an engineer. I don't believe in miracle cures. But this man had nothing to sell me. He wasn't trying to convince me of anything. He just wrote down 3 foods on a piece of paper, shook my hand, and left. I still have that piece of paper. The 3 foods were eggs, Alaskan salmon, and spinach. That is it. He told me to eat them together every single morning without fail. I went home and did what any engineer would do. I researched. I read medical journals. I looked at clinical studies. And what I found shocked me more than that conversation in the diner. There is a massive body of scientific evidence showing that specific nutrients can not only slow cataract progression, but actually reverse lens opacity in early to moderate stages. And the 3 foods this stranger recommended contained the exact compounds researchers were studying. Let me break down what I discovered, because this is where it gets really interesting. Cataracts form when proteins in your eye lens start to clump together, creating cloudy areas. For decades, doctors believed this process was irreversible. You just waited until the cloudiness got bad enough. Then you had surgery to replace the lens. But research over the past 15 years has completely challenged that assumption. A landmark study published in the American Journal of Food and Health followed over 35,000 women for 10 years. Women with the highest dietary intake of lutein and zeaxanthin had a 23% lower risk of needing cataract removal compared to those with the lowest intake. But here is what really matters. Another study in Journal of Eye Health showed that increasing these nutrients even after cataracts had already started forming led to measurable improvements in lens clarity. That means it is not just prevention, it is potential reversal. Lutein and zeaxanthin are carotenoids that concentrate specifically in the lens of your eye. They act like internal sunglasses, filtering harmful blue light and neutralizing free radicals that damage lens proteins. Spinach is one of the richest sources of these compounds. 1 cup of cooked spinach contains over 20 milligrams of lutein and zeaxanthin combined. The studies showing cataract improvement used daily intakes between 6 to 10 milligrams. So that was food number 1 on the piece of paper. Spinach. Food number 2 was eggs, specifically the yolks. Now, for years we were told to avoid egg yolks because of cholesterol, but egg yolks contain something extraordinary for eye health. They contain a highly bioavailable form of lutein and zeaxanthin. What does bioavailable mean? It means your body can actually absorb and use it. Here is the critical part. A study in the Journal of Nutrition found that lutein from eggs was absorbed nearly 4 times better than lutein from spinach when eaten alone. The reason is the fat content in egg yolks. Lutein and zeaxanthin are fat-soluble nutrients. They need fat to be absorbed, so eating spinach and eggs together creates a synergistic effect. The spinach provides high amounts of these protective compounds, and the egg yolks provide the fat needed for your body to absorb them. This is exactly what that man in the diner told me to do, and now I understood why. Food number 3 was Alaskan salmon. Salmon contains something that neither spinach nor eggs provide in significant amounts: omega-3 fatty acids, specifically DHA and EPA. DHA makes up a huge percentage of the structural fat in your retina and lens. Studies show that people with higher omega-3 intake have significantly lower rates of cataract formation. But more importantly, for someone like me who already had cataracts, omega-3s have powerful anti-inflammatory effects. Cataracts are not just about protein clumping. There is an inflammatory component. Chronic low-grade inflammation in the eye accelerates lens damage. Omega-3 fatty acids, especially from fish like salmon, dramatically reduce that inflammation. A study in Vision Science Today found that participants who consumed fish high in omega-3s at least 3 times per week had a 12% reduction in cataract progression over 5 years, compared to those who rarely ate fish. But I was not thinking about 5 years. I had 6 weeks until my scheduled surgery. I wanted to know if eating these 3 foods could make any difference in that short time. The research suggested it could. Nutrient levels in eye tissue can change relatively quickly when intake is high and consistent. Some studies showed measurable changes in macular pigment density within just 4 to 6 weeks of supplementation with lutein and zeaxanthin. So I made a decision. For 3 weeks, I ate this exact breakfast every single morning. No exceptions. No excuses. I bought wild-caught Alaskan salmon. I bought organic spinach. I bought pasture-raised eggs. Every morning, I would scramble 2 eggs with a cup of cooked spinach and have 4 ounces of baked salmon on the side. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't exciting after the first few days. But I committed. The first week, I noticed nothing. My vision was still blurry. I still couldn't read small print. I started wondering if I was wasting my time. But something the research taught me kept me going. Cataract reversal, if it happens, does not happen overnight. The lens has very slow cellular turnover. Changes take time. The second week, I noticed something small. I was watching television one evening and realized I could read the closed captions more easily than before. Not perfectly, but better. I thought maybe it was just a good day. Maybe the lighting was better. But then my wife, Sarah, asked me to read something on her phone, and I could, without squinting, without holding it at arm's length. I could actually see the text clearly. I didn't say anything to her. I didn't want to get my hopes up. By the end of week 3, I was reading the newspaper without glasses. Let me repeat that. I was reading regular newsprint without any glasses. My cataract removal was scheduled for the following Monday. I called my eye doctor, Dr. Johnson, and asked if I could come in for a recheck before the procedure. She was hesitant, but agreed. When she examined my eyes, she was silent for a long time. She checked again. She used a different instrument. Then she looked at me and said, "Mr. Chen, your lens opacity has decreased significantly. I'm seeing improvement in both eyes." She asked me what I had been doing. I told her about the breakfast, about the spinach, eggs, and salmon. She was skeptical, but she couldn't argue with what she was seeing through the slit lamp. She said, "I can't say definitively that your diet caused this, but I also can't ignore these results. Let's postpone the cataract removal and recheck in 3 months." I asked her to give me specifics. How much had my lens opacity improved? She pulled up my previous exam from 6 weeks earlier. She showed me the measurements. My right eye had gone from a grade 2 nuclear sclerotic cataract to a grade 1. My left eye, which had been worse at grade 3, was now measuring at grade 2. For those who don't know, cataracts are graded on a scale from 1 to 4, with 4 being the most severe, requiring immediate surgery. Most eye doctors recommend surgery at grade 3, or when functional vision is significantly impaired. I had moved backwards on that scale. My cataracts had literally regressed. She said she had only seen this kind of reversal a handful of times in her 20-year career, and each time, the patient had made significant dietary changes. That was 3 months ago. I've continued eating this breakfast every single day. My vision has continued to improve. I'm now reading books again. I'm driving at night. I can see my grandchildren's faces clearly. At my 3-month follow-up last week, my doctor said the cataract progression has not only stopped, but several areas of lens opacity have reduced even further. She still won't officially say it was the food. Doctors have to be careful about making claims. But she did ask me to write down exactly what I was eating, so she could share it with other patients. Now let me be very clear about something. I'm not saying this will work for everyone. I'm not saying you should cancel your surgery. If your doctor says you need it, advanced cataracts require surgical intervention. There is no food that can replace a completely clouded lens. But if your cataracts are in the early to moderate stage, if you have been told to wait and see, this is something you can try right now. While you are waiting, and let me give you the exact protocol I followed, because details matter. Every single morning, without exception, I ate this breakfast: 2 pasture-raised eggs, scrambled, 1 full cup of cooked spinach, mixed into the eggs, 4 ounces of wild-caught Alaskan salmon, baked or pan-seared. Why pasture-raised eggs? Because they contain up to 3 times more omega-3s and twice as much vitamin E. Compared to conventional eggs, both nutrients are protective for your lens. Why wild Alaskan salmon and not farmed? Wild Alaskan salmon contains significantly higher levels of astaxanthin, another powerful carotenoid that has been shown in studies to penetrate eye tissue and reduce oxidative stress in the lens. Why cooked spinach and not raw? Cooking spinach breaks down the cell walls and makes the lutein far more bioavailable. You absorb much more from cooked spinach than raw. I cooked the spinach lightly in a pan with a small amount of olive oil, then scrambled the eggs directly into it. The fat from the eggs and the olive oil ensured maximum absorption of the lutein. I ate this meal within 30 minutes of waking up. Why? Because nutrient absorption is highest in the morning, when your digestive system is fresh and active. I drank a glass of water with it. Hydration is critical for eye health. Dehydration can worsen lens opacity. That was it. Simple, consistent, every day. Let me give you more specific preparation details, because people always ask. For the spinach, I bought fresh organic spinach from the grocery store. I would rinse it thoroughly, then add it to a heated pan with about 1 teaspoon of olive oil. I cooked it on medium heat for about 3 to 4 minutes, until it wilted completely and reduced in volume. 1 cup of cooked spinach actually starts as about 4 to 5 cups of raw leaves. Once the spinach was cooked, I cracked 2 eggs directly into the pan with the spinach and scrambled everything together. The eggs and spinach cooked together for about 2 minutes. I did not add milk or cream, just eggs and spinach. For the salmon, I preferred wild-caught sockeye or king salmon from the fish market. I would bake a larger portion at the beginning of the week. I set my oven to 400 degrees Fahrenheit, seasoned the salmon with just a bit of sea salt, black pepper, and a squeeze of lemon, and baked it for about 12 to 15 minutes, and depending on thickness, I stored the cooked salmon in the refrigerator and would eat it cold or gently reheat it each morning alongside the eggs and spinach. The entire breakfast took me about 10 minutes to prepare each morning. That is all. 10 minutes for potentially saving my eyesight. I also want to mention timing. I ate this breakfast within 30 minutes of waking up, and I made sure not to drink coffee until at least 30 minutes after finishing the meal. Why? Because caffeine can interfere with the absorption of certain nutrients, particularly iron and some antioxidants. I drank 1 full glass of water with the meal and another glass about an hour later. Now let me address some questions you might have. Can you take lutein and omega-3 supplements instead of eating these foods? You can, and many studies have used supplements. But here's what I've learned. Whole foods contain dozens of other compounds that work synergistically with the main nutrients. Spinach doesn't just have lutein. It also has vitamin C, vitamin E, beta-carotene, and other antioxidants that all work together to protect your eyes. Eggs don't just have lutein, they also have choline, which supports cellular membrane health in the eye. Alaskan salmon doesn't just have omega-3s. It also has selenium, B vitamins, and astaxanthin. You cannot replicate the complexity of whole foods with a pill. You can supplement, and that might help, but I personally chose to get my nutrients from food. What if you don't like salmon? Other cold water fatty fish work too. Sardines, mackerel, anchovies, herring, all are high in omega-3s. If you absolutely cannot eat fish, you could use a high-quality fish oil supplement, but the food source is always better. What if you're allergic to eggs? You can get lutein from other sources. Kale, collard greens, and other dark leafy greens are excellent, but you need to eat them with fat. Add olive oil, avocado, or nuts to ensure absorption. What if you're vegetarian or vegan? You can get omega-3s from algae-based DHA supplements. You can get lutein from greens. You can get healthy fats from nuts, seeds, and avocados. It is possible, but it requires more planning. How long does it take to see results? For me, it was 3 weeks, but everyone is different. Some studies showed changes in 4 to 6 weeks. Some took 3 months. The key is consistency. You cannot eat this breakfast twice and expect miracles. It has to be daily. Let me give you a realistic timeline based on my experience and what I've learned from others. Week 1, you probably won't notice any vision changes. Your body is building up nutrient stores in your eye tissue. This is the foundation stage. Don't get discouraged. Week 2, you might start noticing very subtle improvements. Maybe colors seem slightly brighter. Maybe you can read 1 line lower on the eye chart. These changes are small and easy to dismiss as placebo, but they are real. Week 3 to 4. This is when most people notice significant improvements. Reading becomes easier. Night vision improves. Glare from headlights decreases. You might find yourself reaching for your glasses less often, week 6 to 8. If you are going to see measurable clinical improvement that your doctor can document, this is the typical window. This is when lens opacity measurements start to show change on slit lamp examination. 3 months and beyond. This is when the improvements stabilize and often continue to progress slowly. This is also the point where you'll want to get a full eye doctor recheck to document long-term changes. But here's the most important thing. Even if you don't see dramatic improvement in 3 weeks like I did, that doesn't mean it's not working. Stopping cataract progression is just as valuable as reversing it. If your cataracts don't get worse over the next year, that's a huge win. Most untreated cataracts progress steadily. Slowing or stopping that progression buys you time, potentially years, before you need cataract removal. Can this prevent cataracts if you don't have them yet? Absolutely. The same nutrients that helped reverse my early cataracts are the ones shown in studies to prevent cataract formation in the first place. If you're over 60 and your vision is still clear, this is one of the best things you can do to keep it that way. Now here's something most people don't know. Cataracts aren't just about aging. They're about oxidative stress. Your lens is under constant attack from UV light, blue light from screens, environmental toxins, smoking, poor diet, and chronic inflammation. Every single one of those factors generates free radicals that damage the proteins in your lens. Over decades, that damage accumulates and you get cataracts, but your body has a defense system, antioxidants. Specifically, the antioxidants that concentrate in your eye tissue: lutein, zeaxanthin, vitamin C, vitamin E, and omega-3 fatty acids. When you flood your body with these nutrients every single day, you're giving your eyes the tools they need to repair damage, neutralize free radicals, and maintain lens clarity. This is not a miracle. This is biochemistry, and the research backs it up. A study published in Archives of Ophthalmology followed over 5,000 people for 10 years and found that those with the highest intake of lutein and zeaxanthin had a 20% lower risk of developing cataracts compared to those with the lowest intake. Another study in JAMA Ophthalmology found that women who took vitamin C supplements for 10 years or more had a 60% lower risk of cataract formation. A meta-analysis of 20 studies published in Public Health Nutrition concluded that higher fish consumption was associated with a significant reduction in age-related cataracts. The evidence is overwhelming. What you eat directly affects your eye health. Now let me tell you what happened after I started sharing my story. I told my brother Dave, who is 72 and was also scheduled for cataract removal. He tried the same breakfast protocol. After 8 weeks, his doctor also noted improvement and postponed his surgery. His specific results were even more dramatic than mine. He had been told he had bilateral posterior subcapsular cataracts, which are often considered more aggressive and faster progressing than the nuclear sclerotic type I had. After 2 months on the breakfast protocol, his visual acuity improved from 20/80 in both eyes to 20/40 in the right eye and 20/50 in the left. His eye doctor documented decreased posterior capsule opacity and told him to continue whatever he was doing. I told a friend from church, Barbara, who had been complaining about blurry vision for years. She started eating this breakfast. 6 weeks later, she told me she could read her Bible again without magnification. Her name is Barbara. She's 74. She'd been using a magnifying glass to read for the past 3 years. She tried the protocol, but made one modification because she doesn't like salmon. She substituted mackerel, which is even higher in omega-3s. Within a month, she noticed she could read the church bulletin without her magnifier. Within 6 weeks, she was reading normal print books. She went back to her eye doctor, expecting to need stronger reading glasses. Instead, her doctor told her prescription had actually improved, and her cataracts showed signs of stabilization. I'm not saying this to brag. I'm saying this because I believe there are thousands of people out there, sitting in waiting rooms right now, resigned to cataract removal, who have no idea that something as simple as changing their breakfast could make a difference. Your eye doctor might not tell you this, not because they're bad doctors, but because nutrition isn't emphasized in medical training. Eye doctors are trained to diagnose and operate. They are incredibly skilled at what they do, but most have little training in nutritional intervention. That's changing slowly, but for now, you have to be your own advocate. Let me also talk about common mistakes people make when trying this protocol, because I've heard from dozens of people now, and I've seen what works and what doesn't. Mistake number 1 is inconsistency. Eating this breakfast 5 days a week isn't enough. Your eye tissue needs a consistent daily supply of these nutrients to maintain protective levels. Skipping weekends or eating it sporadically will not give you results. Mistake number 2 is using low-quality ingredients. Conventional eggs have a fraction of the omega-3s and lutein compared to pasture-raised eggs. Farmed salmon has significantly less astaxanthin than Alaskan salmon. Frozen spinach that's been sitting in your freezer for 6 months has degraded nutrient levels. Quality matters. Mistake number 3 is not eating enough fat with the meal. Remember, lutein and zeaxanthin are fat-soluble. If you're trying to eat egg whites only, or skipping the olive oil because you're worried about calories, you're sabotaging your absorption. You need the fat. Mistake number 4 is expecting instant results and quitting too soon. I almost gave up after the first week because I saw no change. Most people quit before they reach the critical 3 to 4 week window, where changes start to become noticeable. Mistake number 5 is not tracking your progress. I kept a simple journal. Every morning I wrote down how my vision felt that day. Could I read the alarm clock across the room? Could I see the TV guide clearly? Could I read my phone without glasses? Tracking these small details helped me notice gradual improvements I might have otherwise missed. Mistake number 6 is continuing habits that damage your eyes while trying to heal them. If you're eating this breakfast every morning, but also smoking a pack of cigarettes every day, you're working against yourself. If you're staring at screens for 12 hours without breaks, you're generating oxidative stress faster than the nutrients can counteract it. You have to support your eyes in other ways too. Wear sunglasses outdoors. Take breaks from screens. Don't smoke. Stay hydrated. Get enough sleep. The breakfast is powerful, but it works best when combined with other eye-healthy habits. If you're over 60 and you've been told you have early cataracts, or if you just want to protect your vision as you age, I encourage you to try this. Give it 6 weeks. Commit fully. Eat this breakfast every single day. Track your symptoms, pay attention to how your vision changes, and then go back to your eye doctor and get rechecked. You might be surprised, your doctor might be surprised, but more importantly, you might save yourself from an unnecessary surgery and give yourself years of clearer vision. One last thing. I know some of you are watching this and thinking, this sounds too good to be true. I get it. I thought the same thing when that man in the diner told me his story. But then I did the research. I read the studies. I tried it myself. And it worked. Not because of magic. Not because of some secret the medical industry is hiding, but because the human body is extraordinarily good at healing itself when you give it the right tools. Your eyes are no different. Feed them the nutrients they need. Protect them from oxidative stress. Give them time to repair, and you might be shocked at what happens. Let me leave you with one final thought. 3 months ago, I was terrified. I thought I was losing my independence. I thought I'd need someone to drive me places. I thought I'd never read another book. I thought my world was going to shrink into a permanent blur. Today, I read every morning. I drive confidently, even at night. I can see the faces of people I love. I can see the world in vivid detail again, all because of a conversation with a stranger and 3 simple foods. I'm not special. My body's not unique. I'm just a 67-year-old man who decided to try something different before surrendering to cataract removal. If you're in a similar situation, you have nothing to lose by trying this. The worst-case scenario is you eat a very healthy breakfast for 6 weeks and your cataracts stay the same. But the best-case scenario is that your vision improves, your surgery gets postponed or cancelled, and you get years of clearer sight. That possibility is worth 10 minutes of cooking every morning. Your eyes have an incredible capacity to heal when you give them what they need. Don't underestimate the power of nutrition. Don't accept that cataract removal is your only option without at least trying a nutritional approach first. Talk to your doctor, show them this information, ask them about trying a dietary intervention before scheduling surgery, especially if your cataracts are still in the early to moderate stage. Most good doctors will support you trying a safe, evidence-based nutritional approach, especially if it means you might avoid or delay an invasive procedure. And if your doctor dismisses nutrition entirely, without even looking at the research, maybe it's time to get a second opinion from a more integrative-minded eye doctor. Your vision is too important to leave entirely in someone else's hands. You have more control over your eye health than you've been led to believe. Use that control. Take action. Start tomorrow morning. 2 eggs, 1 cup of cooked spinach, 4 ounces of Alaskan salmon every single day. Give it 6 weeks. Then come back and tell me what happened. If this video helped you, please hit the super thanks button below. It costs you a small amount, but helps me enormously to keep making content like this that your doctor probably won't tell you about. I don't sell supplements. I don't have products to push. I just share what worked for me and what the research supports. And please leave a comment. Tell me if you're going to try this protocol. Tell me if you have tried it and what your results were. I read every single comment, and your stories inspire me to keep researching and sharing. Thank you for watching. Take care of your eyes. Feed them well. Protect them fiercely. They're the only pair you've got, and they're worth fighting for.